Ladies and gentlemen, what you're about to see tonight is nothing short of political insanity because CNN just did the unthinkable. They just turned on their own. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, AOC, walked into that studio expecting another softball segment about equity and universal health care, but instead she walked straight into a trap. The host cornered her with real-world questions. Families without paychecks, mortgages on hold, air traffic controllers feeding their kids on credit cards, and AOC had no answers, just excuses and just blame. But that's not even the bombshell here, because just hours before the broadcast, a deep fake video of Chuck Schumer leaked online showing him saying, "Every day gets better for us." This is a line that exploded across social media like wildfire, painting Democrats as smug, disconnected, and power drunk while millions of Americans suffered under this government shutdown. But when CNN played that clip live, AOC froze. The smile disappeared, the talking points collapsed, and all of a sudden, the party of compassion looked like a pack of frauds caught red-handed. This is the moment that the shutdown lies blew up in their faces. The fake empathy, the endless blame Trump rhetoric for the People Act, and all of it went up in smoke. So tonight, I'm going to go ahead and break down exactly what just happened, why CNN flipped, and how this deep fake Schumer scandal just shattered the Democrats' entire shutdown narrative. Stay locked in, guys, because once you see how deep this goes, you're going to understand exactly why AOC and Schumer's entire media machine is now in full-blown panic mode. Hit the like button, subscribe. All right, I want to set the stage here. It's October 2025. The economy's rebounding under President Trump, but Washington swamp still choking on gridlock. So CNN decides to host this town hall with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Bernie Sanders. These are two self-proclaimed champions of the working class to discuss the shutdown crisis. But what happened next isn't a discussion, it's an implosion. Now, for once, CNN didn't shield them. The host doesn't nod along. He presses pretty hard. Families missing paychecks, small businesses collapsing, airports running skeleton crews. And AOC, she flashes that trademark smile, the influencer grin, and starts spinning fantasy economics about community support and systemic care. But the crowd's not buying it this time, because behind every buzzword is a dad trying to feed his kids without a paycheck. And that right there, that is when the tension hits its breaking point. Then came the moment. Eric Johnson, a federal air traffic controller, father of 4 from Mississippi, appears on the screen. His voice trembles, not with politics, but with exhaustion. "What are we supposed to do for food money when our paychecks stop coming?" he asks. The room goes silent. AOC stares straight ahead, blinking, grasping for words. Her response? Not an ounce of empathy, just a bureaucratic lecture about reopening government and expanding programs. Translation? Get on food stamps. Get on SNAP. That is the Democrat solution, dependency over dignity. You could see the crowd shift, uncomfortable, disillusioned, because in that moment, the mask slipped. This wasn't compassion, it was control. And CNN's host, to everybody's shock, just sat back, letting AOC dig the hole deeper, word by word. Now, the most dangerous thing about Medicare isn't big bills, it's small, hidden costs that add up quietly, month by month. They drain your savings. This is why I partner with Chapter. They expose those hidden Medicare costs before they rob you blind. Now, one of our viewers, she said, "Chapter saved me from death by 1,000 cuts in my Medicare plan." Now, on average, they've saved seniors $1,100 a year. So let me ask, are you going to let the silent killer keep draining you? Or are you going to join the majority who have already stopped it? Now, most people, they're dialing that phone number right there at the bottom of your screen, or they're visiting askchapter.org/Ron. And that phone number again is 909-563-8279. Oh, and the best part, it's totally free for the Ron Yates community. And if you're already on the right plan, they're going to tell you. And if not, they could help save you thousands. And so right after that question, AOC tries to recover, but folks, it was rather painful to watch. So instead of offering a real plan, AOC goes into what can only be described as an intellectual improv. It was a complete mess of half-finished sentences about systemic expansion, equitable support, and holistic community care. Not a single number, not one action step, nothing that actually feeds a family tomorrow who's starving, right? Even the CNN host looks completely confused, nodding, but completely clearly wondering, where is this thing going here, right? It was a kind of vague, feel-good nonsense that sounds deep until you realize that it says absolutely nothing. Almost kind of reminded me of one of Kamala Harris's word salads. And then that was when she finally stopped talking. The audience just kind of sits there, stone silent, and just kind of like looking around like, what is she talking about? Because they know what she won't admit. Real Americans can't pay bills with buzzwords. So now, here's where things get even more twisted. So instead of addressing paychecks or reopening government, AOC pivots. She calls for expanding SNAP benefits and restoring healthcare funding for families in distress. In other words, when the system system fails, grow the system. Make it bigger. This is the Democrat reflex. Crisis equals opportunity to centralize more power. Bigger government, more government power. But think about it, guys. They caused the shutdown. Then they propose more government dependency as the cure. That's not leadership. That is leverage. And the irony, the shutdown itself froze benefits. It delayed claims and left low-income families without access to the very programs that she's preaching about. Even some of the Democrats in the crowd looked completely stunned because the more she talked about community relief, the clearer it became that this wasn't a rescue plan. It was a recruitment pitch for dependency. And so here's where the truth really kind of starts to leak out. Because even as everyday Americans are begging for relief, AOC and Bernie Sanders just keep dodging, saying they'll stay strong until Republicans cave. Translation, they're going to hold the entire government hostage until their demands are met. Meanwhile, sacrificing every American taxpayer out there. Universal health care, public subsidies, open-ended welfare programs, their wish list never ends. It's no longer about reopening America, it's about remaking it. And the CNN host catches it. He presses her again. So you're saying no compromise? AOC smirks. We have to fight for what's right. But fight for who? The millions of federal workers that are missing their paychecks? How about the families who are losing their homes? No, she actually means fight for her own personal agenda. And suddenly it's crystal clear. This shutdown isn't about governance, it's about control. Then comes one of the most heartbreaking moments of the night. A Democrat, yes, a Democrat named Bobby Harms, a bartender from Horn Lake, Mississippi, appears on screen. She's in tears. She's crying. Her dream home was days away from closing when the shutdown hit. Her USDA loan froze. Her lease expired, and now she and her family have nowhere to go. You could feel the pain coming through the camera. A life on pause because politicians want a talking point. Bernie Sanders leans forward, pretending to care, but his words give him away. If Trump wins this fight, our healthcare systems could collapse. Not a word about Bobby's home, just another slogan. And when she pleads for help, AOC just nods along blankly. That's when CNN's audience realizes that the shutdown isn't hurting politicians, it's destroying the people that they claim to represent. So by this point, the crowd's mood has clearly shifted away from polite applause to pure disbelief. Because every time a struggling American steps up with a real story, a missed mortgage payment, a furloughed job, a lost business, Bernie Sanders and AOC pivot right straight back to politics. Their focus isn't the people that are standing right there in front of them, it's the cameras. They ramble on about Trump's cruelty, Republican obstruction, and the soul of democracy. But not one of them is actually saying, hey, here's how we can fix it right now. No, they're not saying that. Oh, and you can see it on their faces in the audience, the disappointment, the anger, the realization that these so-called champions of the working class, they don't even hear them. Because for AOC and Bernie Sanders, their bills are paid. They got multiple homes to live in. Suffering is just a soundbite, prop to keep the narrative alive. Then CNN drops a curveball. The host brings up the new GOP offer, a one-year extension of ACA subsidies in order to stabilize premiums during the shutdown. A fair, temporary compromise in order to protect families. But AOC snaps back, calling it laughable. She insists that Democrats won't settle for a year. They demand permanent universal health care for everyone, no exceptions. The audience gasps. Even some Democrats are in the room. They're like, what is she talking about? Because she just admitted what conservatives have warned all along. It's not about access, it's about control. They don't want to help people for 1 year. They want to help their own system forever. And the way she says it, it's very defiant, almost smug, and it proves it. To her, compromise is weakness. And millions of Americans going broke in the meantime, they're just collateral damage for the cause. Then comes the question that turns the room ice cold. The CNN host looks straight at AOC and asks, should Senator Chuck Schumer be worried about a primary challenge from you? Boom! Instant panic, guys. Bernie Sanders jumps in like a nervous bodyguard, waving his hands, deflecting. That's not what we're here to talk about. But at this point, it was already too late. The mask is off because everyone watching knows AOC and Chuck Schumer have been quietly feuding for months. The old establishment versus the new radical wing. Chuck Schumer wants control of messaging. AOC wants control of the movement. And that one question from CNN exposed it all. The fractures, the ego, the hunger for power, the so-called united front of the Democratic Party was crumbling live on TV right there. And then came the nuke. As the show cuts to a break, a clip begins circulating online. Chuck Schumer on camera saying, every day gets better for us. It spreads like wildfire. Outrage, memes, news alerts. But then reports surface that it's a deep fake generated by AI, allegedly released by a Republican group, exposing how easily public trust can be manipulated. That is when CNN replays it live. The audience grasps, oh my God. Chuck Schumer's smug smirk, his voice echoing through the studio. Every day gets better for us. AOC AOC's expression changes instantly. She's stunned, realizing that the damage is done because whether it's fake or it's real, the message feels true. The clip captures what Americans already believe, that Democrat elites are laughing while families are starving. And CNN airing it, that wasn't sabotage, it was poetic justice. So when the cameras come back on, you could pretty much feel the tension. But this time, it was not just on AOC's side. The CNN host keeps pressing. No more gentle nods, no more safe zones. It's as if the network itself is trying to wash its hands of the left's failures. He asked point blank, "Congresswoman, do you regret how this shutdown has hurt American families?" And then she freezes again, caught between blaming Trump and pretending to care. It's the first time in years that CNN doesn't protect a Democrat. Even viewers online start saying it. CNN just turned on AOC because after months of losing ratings, they finally realized the truth. Defending chaos doesn't sell. So they did the unthinkable. They let AOC self-destruct live for clicks, for headlines, and maybe for redemption. But if political meltdown wasn't enough, AOC decided to go ahead and light another fire. When asked why young men are abandoning the Democratic Party, she claimed the right was radicalizing insecure boys with toxic masculinity. The crowd audibly groaned. That's the line that snapped the patience of middle America. The fathers, the brothers, the veterans who've kept this country running through every crisis. They don't see themselves as toxic. We see ourselves as strong, responsible, and proud to be men. And this wasn't about policy anymore. This was about cultural warfare. Because every time AOC sneers at masculinity, she alienates the very working class men that her party needs to survive. And when CNN didn't edit it out, when they let it air in full, the backlash was instant. It was massive, and it was impossible to spin that. Then came one of those moments that exposed everything wrong with DC elitism in a single breath. During the broadcast, the CNN host introduces a guest, a Democrat from Mississippi. She pauses, smiles. Indeed, the crowd chuckles. AOC laughs along, but folks across America were not laughing. That smug tone, that little smirk, it said it all. To them, Mississippi isn't just a state, it's a flyover country, a punchline. But those are the same people keeping this country together. The truckers, the mechanics, the nurses, the farmers. And watching CNN, Bernie, and AOC giggle about it, it was kind of like watching the elite mock the very Americans that they claim to fight for. It was elitism broadcast live. And that moment, that was the moment that millions realized that the left doesn't just disagree with middle America, they look down on middle America. And so as the town hall spirals further out of control, the bigger picture becomes impossible to ignore. The shutdown is not an accident, it's leverage. Every talking point from AOC and Bernie Sanders circles right back to the same thing. We won't reopen until we get what we want. That's not negotiation, that is ransom. While families lose their homes and businesses close their doors, the left just keeps pushing its demands: permanent ACA subsidies, expanded welfare, new climate funding. They have weaponized pain in order to extract power. And the irony? Under President Trump, negotiations were on the table. A compromise was possible, but Democrats refused because to them, reopening the government meant losing their narrative. So they let Americans suffer, betting that the chaos would hurt Trump. But instead, it exposed them as a party willing to burn the country just to keep control. So after all the chaos, the excuses, and all the lies, here's what we're left with. AOC dodging accountability, Bernie Sanders blaming Trump, Chuck Schumer caught in a deep fake scandal that accidentally revealed how Democrats really think. Every clip, every headline, every soundbite from that CNN town hall painted the same picture. A party drunk on power, disconnected from reality, and they're proud of it. But here's the truth they can't deep fake. The American people are done being pawns. We're done watching elites play shutdown games with our paychecks. We're done being mocked for our faith, for our masculinity, for our values, and our love of our country. So share this video, comment where you stand today, because the tide is turning, and after what CNN just did to AOC, even the media can't hide the truth anymore. Like, subscribe, I'll see you next time.